The dead always speak if you know how to listen. Dr. Nikolai Volkov had been listening to the dead for 3 years now, ever since they'd recovered the first Meridian corpse from the wreckage of Ganymede Station. Not that you could call it a corpse in the traditional sense. The thing on his laboratory table had never truly been alive, at least not by Earth's biological standards. The Meridian body contained no blood, no organs, no DNA. Just an intricate lattice of crystalline filaments encased in a humanoid shell of metallic composite. When they'd first encountered the Meridians, humanity had assumed they were dealing with sentient machines. It took 17 devastating battles and 60 million human casualties to realize how wrong they were. Nikolai adjusted the quantum microscope, focusing deeper into the specimen's neural pathways while the lab systems kept the temperature precisely 18 degrees below zero, the only way to prevent the crystalline network from continuing its self-repair protocols even after death. "Talk to me," he whispered to the disassembled alien components spread across his workstation. "What makes you tick?" His lab assistant, Dr. Una Park, looked up from her terminal. "Still personifying the tech, Nick? The psych department would have a field day with you." Nikolai didn't bother responding. After 3 years of working together in this orbiting laboratory hidden in the L2 Lagrange point, Una knew all his quirks. Besides, they both knew it wasn't really personification. The Meridian tech was alive, just in a way human science was only beginning to comprehend. "Have you prepped the new nanite batch?" he asked, eyes never leaving his scope. "Running final checks now. Batch K, 117 looks promising. We've finally solved the replication cascade issue without compromising infiltration capacity." Nikolai allowed himself a small smile. After thousands of failures, they might finally have a working prototype for Siren, the self-integrating reductive electromagnetic nanite. A digital virus, essentially, designed to infiltrate and temporarily disable Meridian technology without destroying it. His tablet chimed with an incoming transmission, military encryption, highest priority. Nikolai's gut tightened. Only one person contacted him through that specific channel. General Helena Kwan's face appeared on screen, her expression even grimmer than usual. "We've lost Saturn, Doctor. The entire defense fleet, gone in 19 minutes. The Meridian fleet will reach Earth in less than 2 weeks. Nikolai closed his eyes briefly. 70,000 more souls. Fathers, mothers, children. All gone. "We're close, General." K-117 shows. "Close isn't good enough anymore, Volkov. We're out of time and out of options." She paused, her steel-gray eyes holding his through the screen. "The Council has approved Lazarus Protocol." The words hit Nikolai like a physical blow. "No, absolutely not. The procedure isn't ready. We need at least 6 more months of testing before." "We don't have 6 more months. We don't even have 6 more weeks." Her voice softened slightly. "Marcus has already volunteered." "Marcus?" Nikolai felt the blood drain from his face. "My brother Marcus? He arrived at Lunar Command yesterday. Said you'd be too stubborn to agree to this, so he went over your head." For the first time, General Kwan looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Nikolai, but he's dying anyway. The cancer has spread throughout his lymphatic system. The doctors give him less than 3 months." Nikolai gripped the edge of his workstation, so hard his knuckles turned white. Marcus, his brilliant, reckless younger brother who'd never known when to quit. The last family he had left after the Sydney attack had claimed their parents. "If you do this, if you turn him into a carrier, it won't just kill him," Nikolai said, his voice barely audible. "It will erase him. Everything that makes Marcus who he is will be consumed by the nanite colony. That's not your call anymore, Doctor. A shuttle will arrive to collect you and your research in 4 hours. Lazarus Protocol has begun." The transmission ended, leaving Nikolai staring at a blank screen while the implications crashed around him. On the table, the dead Meridian components continued their silent communion, revealing secrets too slowly to save humanity through conventional means. He'd created Siren to be their salvation, a way to disable the Meridian fleet without destroying it or killing its inhabitants. Humankind's last ethical stand against extinction. Instead, they would use his creation to transform his brother into something no longer human, a walking plague that could destroy Meridian technology with a touch, a biological weapon unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The Plaguebearer. Nikolai looked at his trembling hands. The hands that had written the code that would soon rewrite his brother's very existence. "Una," he said quietly, "shut down all systems and back up everything. We're leaving." "For where?" He looked once more at the alien components on his table, the dead that had whispered so many secrets. To say goodbye to my brother while he's still my brother. Marcus Volkov had always imagined death would feel more dramatic. Instead, it crept through his body like a dull, persistent ache, a silent passenger that had taken up residence in his bones 6 months ago and had been redecorating ever since. Terminal lymphatic cancer. Inoperable. Untreatable with current medical technology. He watched the Earth through the viewport of Lunar Command's medical wing. From here, you couldn't see the scars, the craters where Meridian kinetic strikes had obliterated Shanghai, Cairo, and Rio. You couldn't see the billions huddled in underground shelters or the desperate naval battles in Earth's orbit that grew shorter and more one-sided with each passing week. From here, Earth still looked like the paradise it had been before the Meridians arrived. Admiring the view, a woman's voice, strong and commanding. Marcus turned to see General Helena Kwan, the legendary Iron Thunder, who had somehow kept Earth's defenses from completely collapsing for 3 brutal years. She looked older than in the propaganda holos, with deep lines etched around her eyes and mouth, but her posture remained perfect, unyielding. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he replied. "Hard to believe we're losing it piece by piece. Not if I have anything to say about it." She moved to stand beside him at the viewport. "Your brother is on his way. He's going to be furious. He'll get over it when he realizes you're our last hope." Marcus laughed, a sound that devolved into a painful cough. "I'm nobody's hope, General. I'm just a linguist who happened to draw the short genetic straw." It was true. While Nikolai had inherited their father's scientific brilliance, Marcus had taken after their mother, with an uncanny gift for patterns and communication. Before the cancer, he had been part of the first contact team, desperately trying to establish communication with the Meridians before it became clear they had no interest in talking. "That's where you're wrong," Kwan said. "Your pattern recognition skills, combined with your genetic compatibility to the procedure and your," she hesitated, "terminal prognosis?" Marcus offered. "Yes. It makes you uniquely qualified for Lazarus Protocol." Marcus turned away from Earth's blue serenity to face her. "Let's not dress this up, General. You're turning me into a weapon. A suicide bomber without the bomb. I touch their tech, and my body releases a virus that shuts it down. And in the process, he trailed off. Consumed, she finished for him. Eventually, yes. The nanite colony will completely integrate with your nervous system. Our scientists estimate you'll maintain cognitive function and autonomy for approximately 72 hours after full integration. 3 days. 3 days of being himself before the siren nanites completely rewrote his neural pathways, turning him into nothing more than a vector for Nikolai's virus. And there's no other way? He asked, knowing the answer. We've lost every conventional battle. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. Our hackers can't breach their systems. Your brother's nanites are the only thing that's shown any effect against their technology, but we need a delivery system that can adapt, that can get past their defenses. She placed a hand on his shoulder. We need a human carrier. A Plaguebearer, Marcus corrected. Kwan's eyebrows rose slightly. Where did you hear that term? It's what the techs are calling me down in the prep lab. I think it's from some old video game. His smile held no humor. Fitting, don't you think? The dying man who carries the plague. Before she could respond, the medical bay doors slid open. Nikolai stood there, his tall frame rigid with barely contained fury, his dark eyes immediately finding Marcus. You idiot, were his first words. You absolute, complete idiot. General Kwan straightened. I'll leave you two to talk. The procedure begins at 0600 tomorrow. She nodded to them both and departed, the doors sealing behind her. The brothers stared at each other across the sterile white room. Nikolai looked terrible, hair uncombed, eyes bloodshot, the same clothes he'd probably been wearing for days. The typical mad scientist look that had always made Marcus roll his eyes. You don't have to do this, Nikolai said, his voice cracking slightly. Actually, I really do. Marcus gestured to his frail body. This thing is killing me anyway. Might as well make my exit useful. There are other options. No, there aren't. Marcus cut him off. We both know that. You've been working on this for 3 years, and we're still losing. Badly. Nikolai crossed the room in a few long strides and gripped Marcus by the shoulders. The procedure will destroy you, not just your body, but you. Everything that makes you Marcus will be overwritten by the nanite colony. I know. I read the reports. Marcus gently removed his brother's hands. But if it works, if I can get inside that mothership and disable their command systems, we might save billions. And if it doesn't work? If you die for nothing? Marcus shrugged. Then I die now for something instead of in 3 months for nothing. He nodded toward the window. That's worth the risk, don't you think? Nikolai turned away, shoulders slumping in defeat. I designed Siren to save lives without taking them. Not to consume my brother. Then make sure it works, Marcus said simply. If I'm going to become this Plaguebearer, then help me make it count. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its serene rotation, oblivious to the desperate conversations happening across what remained of human civilization, millions of last hopes, last stands, last goodbyes. Marcus watched his reflection in the glass overlap with the planet below. Tomorrow, he would begin the transformation into something new, no longer fully human, yet humanity's last weapon against extinction. The dead always speak if you know how to listen. Soon, Marcus would join their chorus. The integration chamber resembled a coffin made of glass and steel, filled with a translucent blue gel that would serve as the medium for the nanite infusion. Marcus lay naked inside, medical sensors attached to every major nerve cluster in his body. From his position, he could see Nikolai behind a wall of screens in the control room, arguing intensely with General Quan and a team of military scientists. They had been at it for hours, making final adjustments to the procedure protocols. Through the chamber's audio feed, Marcus caught fragments of their debate, recalibrated the neural mapping sequence, but the risk of cognitive dissolution remains above 40%. Time for debate is over, Doctor. Begin the procedure. My brother, damn it. At least let me optimize the sequencing. The argument ended abruptly when Nikolai slammed his hand on the console and stormed out of view. Moments later, he appeared at Marcus's side, pressing his palm against the glass. I've made some final adjustments, Nikolai said, his voice tight. They wanted to push for full integration immediately, but I've convinced them to use a staged approach. It will give your consciousness more time to adapt to the nanite colony. Marcus nodded, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. Even through the distortion of the glass and gel, he could see the redness in his brother's eyes. When this works, Nikolai continued, emphasizing the when, you'll be conscious and autonomous longer than they projected. I've built in cognitive protection protocols. The nanites will integrate with your nervous system, but they'll preserve your core neural patterns as long as possible. How long? Nikolai hesitated. I don't know. Maybe 5 days instead of 3. Maybe a week. It depends on how your system responds to the integration. That's something. Marcus attempted a smile. More time to sightsee inside an alien mothership. This isn't a joke, Marcus. I know. The smile faded. But if I don't laugh, I'll scream. And I don't want to spend my last conscious moments screaming. Nikolai pressed his forehead against the glass. I never wanted this. None of us did. But here we are. Marcus placed his palm against his brother's through the barrier. Promise me something. Anything. When it's over, when I'm gone, don't let them keep whatever's left of me as a weapon. Find a way to shut down the nanites. Nikolai nodded, his expression grim. I've already built in a kill switch. A specific electromagnetic frequency that will deactivate the entire colony simultaneously. He glanced toward the observation deck, where General Quan watched with arms crossed. They don't know about it. The frequency is keyed to my voice pattern. One sentence in Russian, Mom's favorite lullaby. Before Marcus could respond, the chamber's medical systems activated with a soft hum. The gel around him began to shimmer with microscopic activity, billions of nanites awakening, preparing to rewrite him from the cellular level up. It's starting, Nikolai said unnecessarily. Remember who you are, Marcus. Hold on to yourself as long as you can. The gel rippled and began to glow from within as the nanites activated fully. They seeped into Marcus through every pore, every membrane, painlessly infiltrating his failing body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then pain exploded through his nervous system, white-hot agony that tore a scream from his throat. On the monitors, his vital signs spiked dangerously. Something's wrong. He heard Nikolai shout. The nanites aren't following the integration protocols. They're rewriting too quickly. Marcus convulsed as the nanites surged through his system, rewriting neural pathways faster than his brain could process. Through the haze of pain, he felt something else emerging, a vast, alien intelligence spreading through his consciousness like ink in water. The nanites weren't just machines. They carried the echo of the Meridian technology they were designed to infiltrate, the same crystalline patterns Nikolai had studied for years. As darkness claimed him, Marcus felt his sense of self fragmenting, dissolving into something larger and stranger. His last conscious thought was a desperate attempt to hold on to his name, his identity. I am Marcus Volkov. I am Marcus Volkov. I am Marcus. Then there was only darkness, and the silent communion of a billion microscopic machines rebuilding him from within. Nikolai hadn't left the observation room in 36 hours. He watched through the reinforced glass as military medical personnel conducted test after test on his brother's transformed body. Marcus, or the being that had once been Marcus, lay motionless on an examination table, skin now a strange, ashen gray with faint luminescent blue patterns visible just beneath the surface. Where the technicians touched him with bare skin, their electronic equipment immediately failed. Tablets died. Monitoring equipment shut down. They had quickly learned to use insulated gloves and organic materials when handling him. The Plaguebearer. The name had spread throughout the base, whispered with equal parts hope and horror. General Quan approached, offering Nikolai a steaming cup of coffee. You should rest, Doctor. You're no good to us, or to him, exhausted. Nikolai accepted the coffee but didn't drink. The integration wasn't supposed to happen that way. The nanites were programmed for gradual neural remapping, not whatever this is. But they worked, Quan pointed out. Every piece of Meridian technology we've exposed him to has shut down immediately. Even the dormant specimens from your laboratory. At what cost? Nikolai pressed his palm against the glass. He hasn't spoken. Hasn't moved voluntarily. We don't even know if Marcus is still in there. The EEG shows complex brain activity, Quan replied. Different patterns than before, but definitely activity. Activity doesn't equal consciousness. Their conversation was interrupted when one of the medical technicians suddenly jumped back from the examination table. Marcus had opened his eyes. They weren't human eyes anymore. Where there had once been warm brown irises, now there were orbs of swirling metallic blue, like liquid mercury mixed with bioluminescent algae. More shocking was the way he moved jerky, disjointed motions as he sat up and looked around the room. His head tilted at an unnatural angle as he examined his own hands. Nikolai rushed into the room, ignoring the security officer who tried to stop him. Marcus? He called, approaching slowly. Marcus, can you hear me? The being that had been his brother turned toward the sound. For a terrible moment, there was no recognition in those alien eyes, just cold, analytical observation. Then something shifted, a flicker of humanity behind the inhuman gaze. Nikolai. The voice was wrong, deeper, with an electronic undertone, as though multiple voices were speaking simultaneously. Yes. Nikolai moved closer, hope surging through him. It's me. Do you know who you are? The being considered this question far longer than a human would need to. Marcus, and not Marcus. He looked down at his transformed body. We are integrated. Colony and host. We? Nikolai asked carefully. The nanites. They are aware. Not intelligent individually, but collectively, he struggled visibly, as though sorting through alien concepts. They remember. They carry patterns from the Meridian tech you used to program them. Nikolai's blood ran cold. This wasn't supposed to happen. The nanites were designed to infiltrate Meridian systems, not to absorb or replicate their cognitive patterns. Can you tell me what year it is? Where you were born? Nikolai pressed, desperately searching for signs of his brother's intact memories. Another unnaturally long pause. 2125. Sydney, before it burned. The mercury blue eyes focused on Nikolai with sudden clarity. I remember everything, Nick. I'm still here. But I'm not alone anymore. Before Nikolai could respond, General Quan entered the room, flanked by two armed guards. That's enough assessment for now, Dr. Volkov. Her tone was professional, but her eyes never left Marcus. We need to proceed with capability testing. He just woke up, Nikolai protested. We don't know the extent of the transformation or his mental condition. I'm right here, Marcus said, his multi-layered voice taking on an edge of his old sarcasm. And I can hear you perfectly well. He turned those disturbing eyes to General Quan. You want to know if I can fulfill my purpose. If I can infiltrate the Meridian mothership and disable their systems. Quan's expression remained neutral. Can you? Yes. The certainty in his voice was chilling. The nanites understand their technology now. Better than before. They've evolved since integration. Evolved. Nikolai and Quan asked simultaneously. Marcus nodded, the movement too smooth to be human. They're adapting to my neural architecture, becoming more efficient, more targeted. He raised one gray-tinged hand, watching as blue patterns shifted beneath the skin. I can feel the Meridian components in the next room, dormant, but still active on a quantum level. Quan shot a questioning look at Nikolai, who nodded confirmation. They did indeed have Meridian tech samples in an adjacent laboratory, something Marcus couldn't possibly know through conventional means. We need to run more tests, Nikolai insisted. The integration happened too quickly. We don't know the long-term effects or stability. We don't have time for long-term assessments, Quan cut him off. The Meridian fleet will reach Earth in 9 days. Our last orbital defense platform fell this morning. She turned to Marcus. Can you disable an entire ship? Not just components, but systems? Yes, Marcus replied without hesitation. But I need to touch the central neural cluster, what you would call their computer core. Everything is connected within their ships. Disable the core, disable the ship. And you know this how? Nikolai asked, increasingly concerned about the source of his brother's newfound knowledge. Marcus tilted his head in that unsettling, inhuman way again. The nanites remember. They carry echoes of the Meridian systems they were designed to infiltrate. He paused, as if listening to voices only he could hear. And they're hungry for more. The test chamber had been converted from a missile silo, its reinforced walls now containing the largest intact piece of Meridian technology humanity had ever recovered, a 15-meter section of hull from a destroyed scout ship. Previous attempts to study it had been largely unsuccessful. The material resisted scanning, cutting, and any form of technological interface. Marcus stood before it now, dressed in a simple black containment suit designed to minimize the accidental discharge of nanites. Around the chamber's perimeter, scientists and military personnel watched from behind barriers, their equipment carefully isolated from any potential nanite contamination. Nikolai monitored his brother's vital signs on a specially designed organic display, one of the few technologies that could function in Marcus's presence without failing. What he saw alarmed him. Marcus's heart rate, respiration, and neural activity were all far beyond human norms, yet he showed no signs of distress. Begin the test whenever you're ready, General Quan's voice came through the chamber's speakers. Marcus nodded and approached the Meridian hull section. As he drew closer, the faint blue patterns beneath his skin began to pulse and glow more intensely. He removed one glove and slowly reached toward the alien metal. Wait, Nikolai said, studying the readings. Your nanite activity is spiking. They're becoming more active just from proximity to the Meridian tech. They're eager, Marcus replied, his multi-layered voice echoing in the chamber. They recognize it, like calls to like. Before Nikolai could object further, Marcus pressed his bare palm against the hull section. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Where Marcus touched the metal, a ripple of energy spread outward, a wave of blue light that raced across the entire surface. The previously inert material suddenly came alive with pulsing patterns that mirrored those beneath Marcus's skin. Then, just as suddenly, the patterns began to fade. The hull section, which had always maintained a faint internal glow even when dormant, went completely dark. Dead. Remarkable, one of the scientists whispered. But Nikolai wasn't watching the hull section. He was watching his brother. Marcus stood rigid, eyes closed, hands still pressed against the now inert alien material. The blue patterns beneath his skin had intensified to an almost painful brightness. Marcus? Nikolai called out. What's happening? When Marcus opened his eyes, they blazed with the same blue light. I can see it, he said, his voice even less human than before. Their entire network. Their history. Their purpose. Step away from the hull section, General Quan ordered sharply. Marcus didn't move. They're not what we thought. The Meridians, they're not invaders. They're refugees. A murmur ran through the observation team. Explain, Quan demanded. Finally, Marcus removed his hand from the hull and turned to face them. The blue light in his eyes dimmed slightly, but didn't extinguish. The Meridians are fleeing something. Something that destroyed their home systems. His voice had taken on a strange cadence, as though translating alien concepts into human language. They need Earth, not to conquer, but to transform. To make it like their home was before. He trailed off, swaying slightly. Before what? Nikolai pressed. Before the veil came. Marcus looked directly at his brother, true fear showing through the alien presence. The nanites don't have the complete memory, just fragments, impressions. But they remember enough. The Meridians aren't the real threat, Nick. They're running from something that consumes entire star systems. General Quan stepped forward. That changes nothing. They're still killing us, taking our world. Because they're desperate, Marcus countered. They've lost 27 worlds to the Veil already. Earth is, he paused, struggling to translate. Earth is fertile, compatible with their technology. They can root here, become strong enough to fight when the Veil arrives. And we're just supposed to roll over and let them have our planet, because something worse might be coming? Quan's voice was sharp with disbelief. No, Marcus said, but we need to understand what we're really fighting, and what's coming behind them. He turned to Nikolai. The nanites have absorbed new information from this contact. Information about Meridian vessel structure, their command systems. His expression became grimly determined. I can complete the mission. I can reach their mothership's core and disable it. But we need to capture it intact, not destroy it. Why? Quan asked suspiciously. Because we might need their technology to survive what's coming next. Nikolai watched his brother carefully. The Marcus he knew had always been perceptive, but this was something else entirely, something that both fascinated and terrified him. How long? He asked quietly. Marcus understood the real question. The nanite colony is stabilizing. Neural integration has slowed. A ghost of his old smile crossed his transformed features. Your failsafes are working, Nick. I'm still me mostly. And I will be for another 5 days at least. 5 days. Enough time to reach the Meridian mothership when it entered Earth orbit. Enough time to complete one final mission. Behind them, the dead Meridian hull section sat like a silent warning of technologies beyond human understanding and threats lurking at the edge of known space. Prepare the insertion team, General Quan ordered her staff. We launch in 12 hours. As the chamber emptied, Nikolai remained, watching his brother stare at his transformed hands, hands that could disable alien technology with a touch, hands that housed a colony of evolving nanomachines slowly consuming his humanity. Are you afraid? Nikolai asked softly. Marcus looked up, blue light swirling in his inhuman eyes. Yes, he answered simply, but not of dying. I'm afraid of what happens if I fail. Outside the test chamber, humanity prepared for its last desperate gambit against the Meridian fleet. None of them yet understanding that the true war, against something called the Veil, might just be beginning. The stealth shuttle was barely larger than a cargo container, designed for a single purpose: to deliver Marcus to the Meridian mothership undetected. Its hull had been coated with a composite material that partially absorbed the enemy's scanning frequencies, and its propulsion system operated at minimal output to avoid detection. There would be no extraction team, no rescue mission. Everyone involved understood the one-way nature of this mission. Marcus sat in the shuttle's cramped cabin, secured to an acceleration couch while technicians made final adjustments to his containment suit. The suit had been redesigned based on data from the hull section test, now incorporating pathways for the nanites to flow more efficiently through his system while preventing accidental discharge. General Quan stood nearby, reviewing mission parameters on a tablet. The mothership will enter high Earth orbit in approximately 40 minutes. Our remaining defense platforms will engage them to create a diversion on the far side of the vessel. That should give you a window to approach the ventral access ports undetected. Marcus nodded, his movements becoming more fluid as he adapted to his transformed body. The nanites have mapped the ship's likely structure based on the hull section data. I'll need to reach the central core, what they call the nexus. And you're certain disabling this nexus will neutralize the entire vessel? Quan asked, not for the first time. Yes. Their technology operates as a unified network. Disable the hub, disable the system. Marcus fixed those unsettling mercury blue eyes on her. But remember, disable, not destroy. We need their tech intact if we're going to have any chance against what's coming. Quan's expression hardened. First, we survive the Meridians. We'll worry about your veil, if that becomes necessary. Nikolai entered the shuttle bay, carrying a small metal case. He dismissed the technicians with a gesture and approached his brother. Final gift, he said, opening the case to reveal a device that resembled a thick bracelet. I've modified the nanite inhibitor. It won't stop the integration process, but it should slow it down. His voice dropped to a whisper. And it contains a quantum entanglement transmitter. Untraceable. If you discover anything more about the Meridians or this veil, we need to know. Marcus allowed Nikolai to fasten the device around his wrist. You don't believe me about the veil. I believe that you believe it, Nikolai replied carefully. But I need more data before I start telling people there's something worse than the Meridians out there. Fair enough. Marcus glanced at General Quan, who had stepped away to confer with the shuttle pilot. The kill switch, do you still have it? Nikolai nodded grimly. When your mission is complete, or if, he couldn't finish the sentence. If I lose myself completely, Marcus finished for him. Don't hesitate, Nick. Whatever I become, it won't be human. It won't be me anymore. I know. Nikolai gripped his brother's shoulder through the containment suit. For what it's worth, this is the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do. Marcus gave a short laugh. Not brave. Desperate. Dying anyway, remember? Before Nikolai could respond, alarms blared throughout the bay. General Quan rushed back, her face tense. The Meridian fleet has arrived early. They're already engaging our orbital platforms. She turned to the shuttle crew. Launch now or lose your window. The technicians scrambled to finish their preparations while Nikolai was ushered toward the exit. At the doorway, he turned back for one last look at his brother. Marcus sat perfectly still in his restraints, the blue patterns beneath his skin pulsing in time with his heartbeat. He raised one hand in a simple goodbye. As the bay doors sealed between them, Nikolai couldn't shake the feeling that he was seeing his brother for the last time, not because Marcus wouldn't return from the mission, but because whatever did return might no longer be Marcus at all.